Hello everyone, good evening. So let us start our weekly current affairs class, and the first topic for the day is, I hope you all are aware, you have went through this topic, the very much highlighted one, and that is this Indian and Chinese troops clash in yes, Arunachal, that is Tawang district of Arunachal Pradesh. So we can say Indo-China clash at Arunachal. ठीक है, at Arunachal Pradesh. So firstly about location. So location is important. First is Yangtze River. Yangtze, Y-N-G-S-T basically, not T-A-C. Yangtze River, and that is in Tawang district of Tawang, T-A-W-A-N-G, Tawang district of Arunachal Pradesh. So जो location है that is near Yangtze River and Tawang district. Tawang is one of the districts of our Arunachal Pradesh. Fine. Remember, this Tawang lies in the northwestern part of this Arunachal Pradesh. Okay. So the Tawang जो district है, that is the lies in northwestern part of Arunachal Pradesh. Fine. And it shares its boundary with, we'll come discuss further, that is Bhutan, then Tibet as well. Fine. So firstly background क्या है? So in background, firstly अगर कुछ ऐसी चीज़ें चल रही हैं तो past में भी कुछ recently ऐसी चीज़ें हुई थी, not recently but 2 years back if you can recall. So yes, I am referring to an incident which was one of the deadliest, you can say, in which we lost around 40 of our soldiers, and that was Galwan Valley clash, in which we lost around 40 of our soldiers. That was one of the deadliest in the recent past. Fine. So this is the backdrop 2020. उसके बाद जो नेक्स्ट हमारे को अभी रिसेंट देखने को मिलता है, दैट इज द रिसेंट क्लैश ऑफ तवांग इन अरुणाचल प्रदेश. फाइन. सो गलवान वैली से जो ये है लेटेस्ट तवांग क्लैश, इसके बीच में काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें होती हैं, काफ़ी सारे देयर आर सर्टन रीजंस एज वेल, बिकॉज कुछ भी विदाउट रीज़न नहीं होता. देयर आर सर्टन कॉजेज. कुछ तो इस बीच में हुए, कुछ पॉजिटिव्स भी हुई हैं, कुछ नेगेटिव चीज़ें भी हुई हैं, और we'll see the way we proceed further what were the causes or what are the causes for the friction points between India and China. So before coming back to the present scenario or present issue, the latest clash, that is, let's first discuss and go into the historical aspects or the background, you can say the historical aspects of border disputes, particularly between India and China. So historically, see, whenever border clashes takes place, it is in most of the cases because of this border, this unclear demarcation of your border areas. Fine. So there are certain issues with this. Firstly, according to Indian Army, or you can say our army, there are certain areas along, we share LAC, line of actual control, with China, and LOC with line of control with Pakistan. So we are restricting ourselves because we are discussing about China and India, so LAC. So according to Indian Army, along the LAC we have around along the LAC, especially in the Tawang sector, this LAC is divided into number of 3-4 sectors. We will take one by one, and the one of the sector is your Tawang sector. Tawang sector in Arunachal. Fine. Even Tawang has a historical relevance as well, cultural relevance as well. We will talk one by one, discuss all these things. Fine. So LAC is being divided into certain sectors, and one of the sector is your Tawang sector. Fine. Now the issue, the whole issue about the border, unclear demarcation of border is that we have, two countries have differing perceptions. आप कुछ और मानते हो, सामने वाला कुछ और मानता है, differing perceptions. And in this differing perceptions, though Tawang is integral part of Arunachal Pradesh and thereby Arunachal Pradesh is integral part of India, so we have clear this insights, or you can say 100% clarity that this sector is integral part of ours, that is India. But China, since having differing perception about this, it considers Tawang, not just Tawang, rather the whole of Arunachal Pradesh as its own integral part, and that is the part of Tibet. And even it refers this Arunachal Pradesh, especially Tawang district, to be the South Tibet. Fine, that is the extension of Tibet only. Tibet, remember for your reference that Tibet currently is TAR, that is Tibet Autonomous Region. Though this is a part of China, still it has certain autonomy in its governance. Fine. We'll discuss every aspect, including the Dalai Lama case. Fine. His Holiness Dalai Lama. So we'll see that how the things went wrong, where things went wrong, and what are the current standings, what is our perception, what is their perception, each and everything. Fine. So before moving ahead, as I said that this LAC, which that is line of actual control between India and China, has been divided under certain sectors. One of the sector is your Tawang sector, the latest location of current clash. Now apart from this Tawang sector, we have different, we have 3-4 different sectors, divisional sectors as well. Fine. So the first is, remember, because why I am giving this, because this seems to be important, because Galwan Valley which happened, that happened in the western part of this LAC, but recently this happened in the eastern sector, you can say, or the versus western sector. So one by one we will take up. So first sector you can see is your eastern sector. Sorry, this is eastern, this is western rather. One second. This is not eastern, rather the western sector, and western sector includes basically the Ladakh. Fine, Ladakh region. Then we have further this division. Let me erase first this, so that we could have enough space. Okay. So the next sector is, you can say, the middle sector. The second one is the middle sector, which includes Himachal Pradesh, HP and UK, that is Uttarakhand. Again, these are, especially the UK has been one of the, again a flashpoint where China even has its objections, recently objected in one of the exercises going on between Indian and US military in Olli, there is a place called Olli in Uttarakhand. Fine. So we will come to this as well, because this again is somewhere related to this. Then the third sector we have is, we have western, we have middle, this is your eastern. Then Sikkim is altogether a separate one. Sikkim, even this was in news 2 years back because यहाँ पे भी confrontation देखने को मिली थी. Sikkim sector. Then we have the eastern sector, and eastern sector includes, basically eastern sector includes, first is your Arunachal, especially Arunachal Pradesh, and Tawang is basically one of the districts of Arunachal Pradesh. Fine. So the issue is currently in the eastern sector, remember, if you talk about is sector wise, because in newspapers, especially in the editorials, you find line like this, the eastern sector, the western sector. So we should be very much clear about the eastern sector exactly hai kya, and what is the western sector, and which areas come under these particular sectors. Fine. So we have LSC has been divided as far as with respect to China is concerned, western sector, eastern sector, middle sector. Fine. And Sikkim altogether separate sector. Fine. So these are the 4 sectors. Recently we are the recent happening took place in eastern sector. Galwan was Ladakh, so western sector, but current one is related to the eastern sector, that is at Arunachal Pradesh, or you can say Tawang. I hope till here we are clear with. Fine. Yes, I was mentioning one of the points that recently China objected India's US and India military exercise going on in Oli, that is in Uttarakhand. So, and we call it Operation Yudh Abhyas. Operation Yudh Abhyas. That becomes sometimes even UPSC asks in prelims that this operation happens with take place with which of the following country. Not exactly like this, but rather you might be given a particular exercise that might be military or navy or related to air force. Fine. Because there are numbers of exercises which which are being conducted throughout the years. So this is one of them, that is Operation Yudh Abhyas between India and US joint military exercise. Fine. So China objected because it took place in Uttarakhand basically, where again we have border issue with China. Fine. So why China claims Arunachal as the whole of Arunachal and especially the Tawang to be its part? Now before that, firstly let us understand that what exactly is the importance of this particular state, or you can say the region Tawang. Importance of Arunachal Pradesh क्या है हमारे दोनों के लिए, दोनों countries के लिए, that is India and China के लिए. So how this Arunachal Pradesh or you can say Tawang region is important for both the nations, that India and China. So how we look to this particular region? Fine. So firstly, as we talk about as far as India is concerned, अगर हम अपनी साइड से देखें कि हमारी पर्सपेक्टिव क्या है, तो अरुणाचल प्रदेश जो है बिफोर केम इनटू एग्जिस्टेंस एज अ सेपरेट स्टेट, it was called NEFA, that is North Eastern Frontier Agency till 1972. 1972 में ही एक एक्ट आया था, that is Wildlife Protection Act. So you can correlate the things for better understanding, so that you can better remember this. So NEFA, that is Northeast Frontier Agency, until 1972 it was referred to as NEFA. Then after 1972 it became a separate state, and is in fact it is one of the largest, not NEFA I am talking about, but Arunachal Pradesh, largest state of Northeast. Fine. So this is one of the largest state of Northeast, remember this. Fine. And as I said that Arunachal Pradesh shares international boundaries. So international boundaries with which countries? Firstly, Tibet in question. So first we can write down Tibet. So if here is Arunachal Pradesh, let me go to the next slide. If here we have this Arunachal Pradesh, something like this. Here, remember, this is the position, or this is district called Tawang, that is the northwestern part of Arunachal Pradesh, northwestern part district. Here in this area we have Bhutan, यहाँ पे अगर आप चलोगे तो दिस शेयर्स बॉर्डर विद दिस इज चाइना, तिब्बत उसी में आ जाता है, चाइना ही हम लिख लेते हैं, फाइन, चाइना, ठीक है. So far as border is concerned, international borders are concerned, firstly we share border, I mean this our Arunachal Pradesh shares border with तिब्बत. तिब्बत कहाँ पे आएगा? नॉर्थ में. सो अरुणाचल प्रदेश के नॉर्थ में क्या आएगा? नॉर्थ तिब्बत. एंड नॉट जस्ट नॉर्थ, इफ यू कैन सी हियर, नॉट जस्ट नॉर्थ, नॉर्थ तो ये है ही है, ये वाली लाइन, बट ऑल्सो इन नॉर्थ वेस्ट, बिकॉज ये इधर तक आता है. सो यू कैन सी कि इवन तवांग के साथ जस्ट इमीडिएटली ये तिब्बत लगता है, ठीक है, यहाँ पे. सो इसलिए तवांग के साथ आपका जो है तिब्बत रीजन भी है इधर, ठीक. सो दैट्स द रीजन दैट दैट्स वाई चाइना कॉल्स इट द साउथ तिब्बत, बिकॉज जो आपका अरुणाचल प्रदेश है, स्पेशली जो तवांग का जो रीजन है, दैट लाइज इन फैक्ट पैरेलली टू द साउथ ऑफ तिब्बत, फाइन. और यू कैन से दैट तिब्बत इज इन द नॉर्थ एंड नॉर्थ वेस्टर्न पार्ट ऑफ तिब्बत, वन एंड सेम थिंग, फाइन. उसके बाद भूटान, यू कैन सी भूटान इज हियर. सो भूटान कहाँ पे? इन योर वेस्ट ऑफ अरुणाचल प्रदेश, फाइन. ईस्ट में आपके म्यांमार आ जाएगा इधर, एंड म्यांमार आपका आ जाएगा इधर ईस्ट में, ठीक है, इधर म्यांमार. सो ईस्ट में इसके कौन लगता है? यू कैन सी इधर से ईस्ट में आपका आ गया यहाँ पे, दिस इज ईस्ट, सो म्यांमार, फाइन. वेस्ट में भूटान, हम इधर बात कर चुके हैं, नीचे तो इंडिया ही है ऑफ कोर्स, इवन बांग्लादेश हियर, सो आई मीन बंगाल के जस्ट साइड में. सो उतना हमें ध्यान देने की जरूरत नहीं है, रेस्ट इज इंडिया, कैन अज्यूम सेफली हियर, ठीक है. सो हमें बस इतना ध्यान रखना है कि जो तिब्बत है दैट इज इन नॉर्थ एंड नॉर्थ वेस्टर्न पार्ट ऑफ अरुणाचल, ठीक है, ये ऐसे, फाइन. वेस्ट में जो है भूटान है, ईस्ट में जो है म्यांमार है, फाइन. सो दैट्स व्हाई दिस लोकेशन इज वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एंड वन ऑफ द स्ट्रेटेजिक, यू कैन से, एज फार एज सिक्योरिटी एंड integrity of the country is concerned, fine. I have already mentioned that China, that's the reason that China historically claims that Tawang, since Tawang is one of the, I said ki the second largest Buddhist monastery lies in Tawang. So this is very very, you know, one of the most important areas as far as Tibet Buddhist or the Buddhism is concerned, fine. So China says that since this area has majority population of Buddhists and especially the Tibetan Buddhists, so of course historically this must have been the part of which? The Tibet region only, fine. So this is the historical perspective of China, but present is different, fine. So as I said कि China claims whole of Arunachal Pradesh to be its part, but the major, you can say the main interest of China lies in the Tawang, fine. Fine. So let's address this question, that is why Tawang is important for China, or why China's major interest lies in Tawang. Why Tawang? Why Tawang is important, or why China claims Tawang to be part of Tibet, or why China is interested in this region. So first is strategic importance. Strategically important है ये region. Strategic importance. Strategic importance. Fine. So strategic importance as far as concerned, Tawang could be a tactical reason as well for China. How and why? Because it provides, strategic entry. It provides strategic entry to the, because अगर let's go back to the previous slide. Yes, अगर तवांग let's say कि part बन जाता है तिब्बत का, which is not going to happen without any doubt. So if Tawang becomes the part of China, or if China is able to acquire Tawang, then of course it will make inroads in the northeastern states of India, of course Arunachal Pradesh. Fine. And अगर आप लोगों ने न्यूज़ में थोड़ा बहुत ध्यान दिया हो, so you might be aware that China is building up its infrastructure, fine, and even settling habitation, this human habitation, that is even establishing villages on its on the border lying to the Arunachal Pradesh, in its own areas, not ours areas, remember, fine, in its own jurisdiction, even establishing villages and all, and settling proper habitations alongside developing infrastructure as well. Even we have developed a lot of logistics, and you can say even we have deployed we have increased the number of soldiers we deploy, plus even we are speeding up our infrastructure developments, especially in the border areas post Galwan clash, fine, of 2020, fine. So strategically important इसलिए है. Second is this Galwan, alongside, as I said कि China is developing infrastructure, even we are developing infrastructure. So China is again, this Tawang region becomes again important because it comes in between the corridor which is China is building between its Tibet region and Xinjiang, or you can say Brahmaputra Valley, because Brahmaputra को सांगपो बोलते हैं चाइना में, and in Arunachal Pradesh we call it Siang, and after that it becomes Brahmaputra, fine. So remember this, in Tibet, because origin जो है Brahmaputra की, that is in Tibet only, and in Tibet we call it Sangpo in Tibetan language, fine, and then it becomes Brahmaputra after Arunachal Pradesh. In Arunachal we call it Siang, that is S-I-A-N-G, Siang river, Arunachal Pradesh, fine. So remember this. So we are discussing that why Tawang is, or why important for China, and why China is more interested in Tawang. So first point is strategic importance, fine. Second point we can say historical reasons or cultural reasons. Why so? Why I am saying that? Because as I mentioned about Tawang monastery, which is the second largest Buddhist monastery in the world after Lhasa. Second reason could be the cultural, you can say, or historical. Cultural or historical. So under this we will be talking about this His Holiness Dalai Lama alongside this Buddhist monastery, or you can say more specifically we can say Tawang monastery. Tawang monastery. So why this is important? Remember 2-3 facts here. First, जो जो 5th दलाई लामा थे उन्होंने इस उन्होंने स्टे किया था इस तवांग रीजन पे, इस तवांग जो रीजन है अरुणाचल का यहाँ पे, एंड उन्हीं की याद में यहाँ पे एक मोनेस्ट्री बनाई गई थी, बुद्धिस्ट मोनेस्ट्री। 5th दलाई लामा आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट। जो करंट दलाई लामा है आप लोगों ने देखा भी होगा टीवी पे। सो इवन ही in 2021 itself went there and stayed for some time in Tawang monastery. Fine. जब भी ऐसा होता है कि when His Holiness Dalai Lama makes visit to these bordering areas, especially the areas bordering Tibet, China को थोड़ा रास नहीं आता है, So China seems take it like India is somewhere using His Holiness Dalai Lama as a, you can say, a tool, against China, but things are not like that. ठीक है, so this is one of the reasons that China is more interested in Tawang. Fine. ठीक है, alongside that, as I said कि it borders Bhutan. Bhutan again is this Buddhist country, so of course China would be more interested in this region. Then China even claims this monastery itself is, as I said, evidence for that this Tawang used to be the part of Tibet historically, and therefore indirectly claims, or you can say which it presents it as an evidence or a proof that even Arunachal was part of Tibet only. ठीक है, नाउ फर्दर अगर हम कल्चरल की बात करें, दिस इज वन एस्पेक्ट ऑफ कल्चरल तवांग मोनेस्ट्री। सेकेंड इज, अगर हम फर्दर डिस्कस करें इस चीज़ को, सो फर्दर जब हम देखते हैं वी कैन से कि तवांग अगेन इम्पॉर्टेंट सेंटर है तिब्बतियन बुद्धिज्म का स्पेशली, एंड इवन जो सम ट्राइब्स हैं स्पेशली इन द अपर अरुणाचल, दैट इज इन तवांग रीजन, नॉर्थ, आई मीन टॉकिंग अबाउट नॉर्थ दिस अरुणाचल और नॉर्थ वेस्ट अरुणाचल। सो कुछ ट्राइब्स ऐसे हैं, इंडियन ट्राइब्स स्पेशली लाइक लिविंग इन अरुणाचल इन द अपर पोर्शन, अपर पार्ट ऑफ यू कैन से अरुणाचल, which have, you can say, cultural connection with the people of Tibet, whom have cultural connection with किसकी बात कर रहा हूं मैं, the tribes basically. So there are certain tribes in upper part of Arunachal which have cultural connection with, the Tibetan Buddhism or Tibetan population, you can say. ठीक है, fine. And if you want to know the name of that tribe, we referred as Monpa. Remember, UPSC does ask question to the tribes, so this might be important because ऐसे ही पूछते हैं, context is current, so they might ask like you, Monpa belongs to which region. इतना easy नहीं आता directly, but they might ask you some deeper question, fine, some tricky question related to Monpa tribes. ठीक है, जो सबसे बड़ी डर चाइना को है, जो सबसे बड़ा फियर है, दैट इज चाइना डज फियर्स दैट सिंस चाइना इज नॉट अ डेमोक्रेटिक कंट्री, सो चाइना हैज ऑलवेज हैज दिस फियर ऑफ डेमोक्रेटिक प्रोटेस्ट और प्रो डेमोक्रेसी मूवमेंट्स. तो चाइना थिंक्स लाइक कि प्रेजेंस ऑफ दिस एथनिक जो ट्राइबल ग्रुप्स हैं और पॉपुलेशन है, दिस माइट पोज अ प्रॉब्लम लेटर ऑन एट सम स्टेजेस यू कैन से, and might give rise to pro-democracy Tibetan movement, might lead to or result into pro-democratic or democracy Tibetan movement, because Tibetan के जो लोग हैं वो खुश नहीं चाइना से, and they want separate state, you can say, Tibetan movement, you can say. So China has this fear कि this ethnic tribal population जो है, this might instigate the Tibetan population to go for pro-democracy Tibetan movement, fine, against China or you can say the Beijing. फाइन। उसके बाद जो पॉलिटिकल इंपॉर्टेंस है, सी वी कैन से, और सेपरेटली वी कैन टेक दिस पॉइंट, थर्ड पॉइंट और फोर्थ पॉइंट, वट एवर दैट पॉलिटिकल सिग्निफिकेंस और पॉलिटिकल इंपॉर्टेंस क्या है, वाई चाइना इज इंटरेस्टेड इन दिस पर्टिकुलर रीजन, पॉलिटिकल इंपॉर्टेंस इसका क्या है। ठीक है, सो इन पॉलिटिकल इंपॉर्टेंस वी कैन से, वी कैन अगेन मेंशन हिज हॉलीनेस दलाई लामा who escaped, remember, in Tibet, who escaped from Tibet, escaped from Tibet in the year 1959, in the year 1959 amid, वाई क्यों वहाँ से वो आए इंडिया, और स्पेशली तवांग रीजन में क्यों आए, क्यों तिब्बत छोड़ के आ गए, बिकॉज वहाँ पे चाइना ने क्रैकडाउन स्टार्ट कर दिया था बेसिकली, फाइन, तिब्बतियन पॉपुलेशन पे, एंड दैट्स व्हाई एंटर्ड इंडिया थ्रू तवांग। आई हैव ऑलरेडी मेंशन्ड तवांग, बिकॉज तिब्बत से सीधा साउथ में तवांग है, दैट्स व्हाई he came to Tawang and stayed there for some time, because his before that fifth Dalai Lama stayed there, so of course this has you can say religious or cultural this significance as well. So this is one of the reasons इसीलिए कभी भी दलाई लामा की अगर विजिट होती है उस एरियाज में, स्पेशली तवांग में, तो देखोगे कि चाइना को ये चीज़ ठीक नहीं लगती, एंड चाइना releases its statements कि India is using Dalai Lama as a proxy, you can say, or a tool against China, and or interfering in the internal matters of China with respect to Tibet. Fine. These are the nutshell. We have discussed that why China and this all, what is the Tawang story. Let's now go further go into this, there are certain aspects of these whole issues and where we can discuss. Before we proceed again to the topic related to China, Indo-China trade, because this has again indirectly or directly relevance to or connected to this very clash or the topic as itself. So remember, there are certain aspects. So far Tawang clash is concerned, अगर एक summarize आपको snapshot में दूँ, so if we discuss it, तवांग का जो issue है majorly, I mean not just तवांग but whole of Indo-China जो एक issue है, Indo-China border issue basically we can say, that is at LAC. We share LAC, remember, line of actual control with China, and LOC, that is line of control with Pakistan. So we can divide it in certain aspects. First is Tawang issue जो है, there are 2-3 points. Let's take first Tawang itself. Second, we take it as McMahon line, and thirdly we can say Tawang, McMahon line and LAC itself. ठीक है, so far McMahon line is concerned, remember, and again there is again one area which is bone of contention between these, and that is called Aksai chain. Aksai, AKSI भी लिख सकते हैं आप इसको, AKSAI, Aksai chain. So I am giving you a quick snapshot of whole issues. We can also separately discuss this in Indo-China relations, but since we are discussing about these clashes and also, let's firstly discuss, take a snapshot of, these issues, or you can say the bone of contentions or the contentious issues, especially related to the borders. So Tawang we have sorted out. Tawang के बारे में हम काफ़ी हद तक बात कर चुके हैं. So far, your McMahon line is concerned. So remember, now I used one word that the two words, that is differing perception. There are different perceptions with related to LAC. How this perception differs? Remember, firstly, since Britishers made you can say gimmick or blunders, especially while drawing the border lines or demarcating the borders between both China and India and this Pakistan and India. So McMahon line, remember, since this was named after McMahon, so McMahon line basically came into being with a treaty basically between India, that is British India, and Tibet, between Tibet and British India That's the reason that China labeled this McMahon line as colonial line, colonial line. You can say in simple words that China doesn't recognize this McMahon line in its entirety. Fine. So that's why China call it colonial line, because this treaty was between Tibet and British India and not between Beijing, you can say China and British India. Fine. So that's the reason that China has or keeps having a differing perception as far as McMahon line is concerned. Fine. But हम तो काफी we Indians are quite sophisticated and all, you can say हमें लड़ना अच्छा नहीं लगता. So we ठीक है, जैसे लाइन लगा दी बस ठीक है, मान लेते हैं उसको, चाहे वो मैकमोहन लाइन हो, चाहे वो पाकिस्तान के साथ LOC हो, ठीक है, जो भी है ठीक है, isn't it? चलो जी, यहाँ तक तो ठीक है. So this is one aspect. That's why the issues keeps on emerging, because unless and until we don't have clarity, both the parties don't have clarity and don't agree or having the common perception about a single border, then of course the things are quite natural to prop up in future. This is one thing. In this very context, I would like to mention, you can quote the statement of current general, that is of India, General Manoj Pandey. He said that in last year just a press conference, he mentioned that our relation with China is stable but unpredictable. Remember. So why he said this? This has lots of background issues. Stable तो है but unpredictable है. We never know, because Galwan took place in the western sector, now recently took place in the eastern sector. So earlier western, now eastern. So anything can happen, because we need to be prepared. Fine. He mentioned these lines. Keep relations are stable but unpredictable. At the same time, we should be prepared for any contingencies or any emergencies. So you can say this recent Tawang clash could be one of the contingencies or emergencies. Fine. So keep in mind this thing. China has different perception about McMahon line. Fine. LAC we have already discussed. This has been divided into different sectors, and all sectors like western mein already, western includes Ladakh. So already we have seen the Galwan clash, Galwan Valley. Then in eastern, the recent clash, that is Tawang. So eastern में भी you can see कि clarity नहीं है, कहीं भी शांति नहीं है. So western Ladakh already हो चुका है, eastern Tawang going on. It took place on the midnight of, remember, in the early hours of around 3-4 am on 19th of So I was talking about the issues with, or the contentious issues related to borders with China. So as far as LAC, that is line of actual control, is concerned, since we have already divided it in different sectors, and we see that already we have Galwan clash in 2020, which is related to western sector in Ladakh. Fine. Then recently we are seeing this, the December 9th early hours attack or clash, you can say, in the eastern sector, that is specifically in the Tawang district of Arunachal Pradesh. Now we are left with Sikkim. So Sikkim ka, if you can recall, Sikkim के साथ भी एक issue हुआ था, and that was the tri-junction involving Sikkim, Bhutan and China, or you can say the Tibet region. So that was a tri-junction issue which took place just before 2020, that is around 2018-19. आई थिंक. सो सिक्किम के साथ भी कन्फ्रंटेशन ऑलरेडी हो चुकी है, especially that issue was related to Bhutan, but since India provides protection to the Bhutan, so that's why we were there to protect Bhutan against any kind of attack by China. Fine. And then we have the middle sectors, which includes of course the HP, that is Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. So Uttarakhand already वहाँ पे युद्ध अभ्यास चल रहा है between India and US military, and that's the region that just 2-3 days back to the this before this Tawang clash, China objected to this युद्ध अभ्यास which is going on between India and US. So of course even Ladakh, even Uttarakhand में भी China tries to acquire this Indian lands, you can say there, or the border areas. So you can see कि कहीं भी we don't have a peaceful or you can say tranquility along the borders that we share along, or you can directly say along the LAC. About you can say take the example of any sectors out of 4, कहीं भी शांति नहीं है. Everywhere we see confrontations. So this is one of the reason, and this is why this whole issue is because of this different perceptions of the two countries related to the borders. Fine. So this is one aspect. Then so far Aksai chain is concerned, Aksai chain is, remember, Aksai chain is a part of, you can say, like POK, पाकिस्तान ऑक्युपाइड कश्मीर, वैसे ही पाकिस्तान ने ऑक्युपाई कर लिया था इसको, ठीक है. एंड आफ्टर दैट पाकिस्तान गिफ्टेड दिस, बेस्ट फ्रेंड्स को गिफ्ट दिया जाता है. सो अक्साई चीन को पाकिस्तान ने गिफ्ट कर दिया, किसको? इट्स ऑल वेदर फ्रेंड्स चाइना, ठीक है. सो अक्साई चीन वाज गिफ्टेड बाय पाकिस्तान, एंड दैट वाज यू कैन से पार्ट ऑफ आवर लद्दाख रीजन. दिस कैप्चर्ड बेसिकली बाय चाइना in India, captured by Pakistan in India-Pakistan war. So like POK, this is Aksai chain, again it's our part which has been this captured by Pakistan illegally, and then Pakistan gifted it to China, ठीक है. And remember, अगर if you will be able to connect here the CPEC, that is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, then that passes through POK, and that's why we have objection, and that's the reason that we have not joined that particular corridor, or you can say the Belt and Road Initiative of China, because we have issues related to sovereignty, because it is somewhere violates our sovereignty. Fine. So Aksai chain, Aksai chain के बारे में एक बड़ी famous about this, एक बहुत ही famous कुछ words कहे थे हमारे late Prime Minister पंडित जवाहरलाल नेहरू ने, कि this is a region where not even a blade of grass grows. Remember about Aksai chain, but area तो area ही होता है. So ये ऐसा region है जो बिल्कुल बंजर है, यहाँ पे एक blade, even a single blade of grass doesn't grow there. This was the the statement, ठीक है. So this is the whole issue. Now further, अगर फर्दर हम इसको कैरी ऑन करें, रिमेंबर इन 90s, 70s, 80s, इवन की जो हमारी चाइना के साथ वॉर हुई थी उस टाइम पे भी 62, सो उस टाइम पे जो इनके प्रीमियर्स थे झाओ एनलाई प्लस आफ्टर दैट डेन जियोपिंग. सो टिल 1986 China used to say that let's exchange Aksai chain. Aksai chain जो है उसको exchange कर लो किसके साथ? तवांग के साथ. I hope I have already discussed in detail that why Tawang is so much important for China. So till 1986 China used to say this under the premiership of Zhou Enlai and Deng Xiaoping. So after that China now under the current Xi Jinping trying to acquire Tawang alongside Aksai chain तो already है, which is not going to happen. Rest assured that this is not going to happen anytime in future even. Fine. So this has been stance so far. Now what could be the solutions? So remember, we have certain protocols and agreements with China, which times and again both the countries keeps mentioning. Even China ने जब objection raise किया about India and US UPSC, which is going on in Oli, Uttarakhand. So even China stressed upon and underlined that India should follow this honor the protocols of the year, the particular years mentioned by China, and that is 1983, I hope. Yes, 1993 and 1996 border agreements. ठीक है, अगर हम further these are the protocols, but since China itself keeps on violating, so of course, and we have not violated, I mean engaging in military exercise with any country, any third country is our own, should be our own decision. We are a sovereign country, we are not dependent, or we are not a colony of China that China would say what we should do or what and what should not be done by India. Rather, we are the best judge of our interest. Fine. So these are certain issues. Now, what could be the way forward? So way forward may in way forward we can say this should be multi-dimensional approach. I mean India should have multi-dimensional approach. Alongside that, इसमें जो multi-dimensional approach हमारा होना चाहिए to tackle China issue, and that should involve both, you can say this geopolitical, in fact in one line I can say geopolitical alongside geo-economic, you can say, or single economic side as well, because we are one of the largest, India, China have largest of course in this trade, one of the largest ones. So of course from our point of view we are import dependent on China. Basically we will see how. So geopolitical, I mean we could have multidimensional, be it political, be it geographical, be it because since the whole issue is related to geography, but we can also counter this a differing perception, or you can say this angle of geography through economic, politics as well. In political, it will involve everything. I mean the diplomatic relations as well, diplomatic this initiatives as well. So political, one thing is important that for tackling with such unfriendly nations, we need to be very we should have common consensus in our domestic politics. Firstly, I mean that every the parties or this domestic politics should be one of the of consensus, जहाँ पे सारी parties and जो भी वो against खड़ी हो एक common, you can say not enemy but an unfriendly nation. Fine. So this is what political stability is there, but political consensus is also important, very much important. Then we can act like a united front against an unfriendly nation. Then economics, yes, economics में हमारे पास काफ़ी, I mean we have this, since we import a lot from China and China is our second largest trading partner. So of course we can somewhere diversify our import dependency as well. So this might be one of the tools to tackle this issue. Alongside that, the most important would be geographic again, that is related to the border demarcation of border lines, and यहाँ पे border line की clarity बहुत ज़रूरी है दोनों parties को. And the best way forward always not the wars, but always not debate but dialogue, talks, negotiations are the only and the best way forwards that we can solve any major issues. Fine. Wars are not wars is not an ideal option, cannot be an ideal option. ठीक है. सो दीज आर सर्टन टूल्स. फर्स्टली हमारी जो भी प्रोटोकॉल्स हैं दोनों जो कंट्रीज हैं उसको अवॉइड करें, माने उसको. उसके बाद ज्योग्राफिक, सो फार द होल इशू इज रिलेटेड टू द बॉर्डर एरिया. सो बॉर्डर के डिमार्केशन जो है बेहद ज़रूरी है. क्लैरिटी हो, एक कॉमन कंसेंसस हो, फाइन, which doesn't seems to be in the foreseeable future, but we should so इस चीज़ को टैकल करने के लिए we can use different sets of multi-dimensional approach. We can have first is political, including diplomatic channels, alongside economy. Yes, we can use trade or economy as a one of the major tools against China. Then we have this, of course the soft power is always there, be it your cultural or historical aspect. So yes, so second topic is related to this only, because considering this whole of the the Tawang clashes, many of the people, or you can say many of the many experts, or you can say better to say many people asking about limiting India's trade relations with China. Even after Galwan, if you can recall, even that time people were talking about limiting the trade relations or this, because this is what we have done with Pakistan. If you see, the volume of trading is almost nil with Pakistan in recent past. And one of the things, because economics or especially the trade, the trading tool has become so much important in today's time that you can settle any kind of issues using this particular tool of trades, because this is important for both the sides. Then, but there are one of major issue with this Indo-China trade is that we are more dependent on Chinese imports than China does on India. ठीक है? How so? And rather after Galwan के बाद एक trend जो है, Galwan issue जो clash हुआ जो 2020 में, after that we strike, you can say, even कहा गया कि surgical strike in the form of banning of apps, including the most one of the popular ones, the TikTok and all, share it, TikTok and all. But remember, एक irony ये है कि even after Galwan clash 2020 we see that rather trade जो है वो कम होनी चाहिए थी, rather जो volume है जो trade की वो sharp increase उसमें हमें देखने को मिलता है post Galwan clash. Fine. Now it becomes important for us to analyze and see that if certain sets of people are talking about that limiting or severing our economic ties with China, to what extent it is possible, or to what extent India is dependent on China. So that's very important, because whenever we want to say something or we want to write answers, then we need to provide the evidences as well. We need to quote examples as well. So in that line, our second topic for the day is India's Indo-China, you can say, trade relations, or more specifically we can say that India's import dependence on China. ठीक है? You see very astonishing, this increase in this trade between India and China. Why I am saying this? If you see in the year 2001, 2 decades ago, somewhere our trade was worth $2 billion with China. But if you see the same in 2021, after 2 decades, you will be surprised to see that this has shoot up to 115 somewhere billion dollars. So you can see the change. Out of this, remember, somewhere after 115 billions, 73 to 74 billion dollars, 73.3 367 like this billion dollars are our imports. So you can see the balance is the balance of trade we talk about. We are talking about merchandise only. So balance of trade की अगर हम बात करें, trade surplus और deficit है. Surplus deficit concept is simple, that when your imports, which we show with M, is more than your exports, we show by X, then we have deficit in BOT. That is, you are paying more. अगर if you are importing more, means you are making more of payments. Fine. So when you are making more of payments, somewhere आपका जो एक foreign exchange है और डॉलर है वो आउटफ्लो ज़्यादा हो रहा है, इनफ्लो कम आ रहा है. सो यू हैव डेफिसिट बैलेंस. अगर रिवर्स कर दो, व्हेन योर एक्सपोर्ट इज मोर देन इंपोर्ट्स, यू हैव सरप्लस बैलेंस इन योर बीओटी, बैलेंस ऑफ ट्रेड. ठीक है, मर्चेंडाइज गुड्स की अगर हम बात करें एक्सपोर्ट इंपोर्ट्स की. सो दिस मच इज द डाइवर्जेंस. सो यू कैन क्लियरली सी दैट हाउ मच इंडिया इज डिपेंडेंट ऑन चाइनीज इंपोर्ट्स. फाइन. Alongside this, अगर हम कंपेयर करें इस इंडिया चाइना ट्रेड की, बिकॉज चाइना हैज़ बीन आवर लार्जेस्ट ट्रेडिंग पार्टनर टिल फ्यू इयर्स बैक. बट अगर हम इंडो चाइना ट्रेड को कंपेयर करें इंडो यूएस ट्रेड के साथ, इंडिया यूएस ट्रेड, सो वी सी अ डिफरेंट ऑलटुगेदर डिफरेंट पिक्चर. इंडिया चाइना की जो ट्रेड है, समवेयर आई टॉक ऑलरेडी मेंशन, इट इज़ अराउंड 115 समवेयर 86 बिलियन डॉलर्स, ऑलमोस्ट 116 बिलियन डॉलर्स. और इस फिगर को भी छोड़ो, वी कैन डायरेक्टली से दिस इज 11.2% ऑफ टोटल मर्चेंडाइज ट्रेड ऑफ इंडिया. ठीक है, द शेयर ऑफ चाइना इन इज 11.2% of total merchandise trades of or total goods trade of India. Fine, overall. But अगर इंडिया यूएस की बात करें तो यूएस has in India's total merchandise trade somewhere around 11.5% of shares, marginally upward. ठीक है, थोड़ा ही ज़्यादा है, but this is the scenario so far. ठीक है. मेजर जो डिफरेंस है, दैट इज वी हैव ह्यूज डेफिसिट विद रिस्पेक्ट टू चाइना ऑफ अराउंड 73, ऑलरेडी आई हैव टॉक्ड अबाउट 73.37 समवेयर बिलियन डॉलर्स. यू कैन सी आउट ऑफ 116 यू हैव डेफिसिट, मीन्स योर इम्पोर्ट इज मोर देन योर एक्सपोर्ट्स इन केस ऑफ चाइना. बट इन केस ऑफ यूएस आवर एक्सपोर्ट्स आर मोर देन, दिस एक्स से इसको शो कर दें, exports are more than imports. So of course we have surplus in the BOT with respect to China, US, sorry, with respect to US. Fine. So this is one of the contrasts between the two nations. ठीक है. So US ने recently take over किया है चाइना को in 2021-22 only, because 2021 एंड 22 में यूएस चाइना को ओवरटेक कर चुका है विद रिस्पेक्ट टू बीइंग इंडियाज लार्जेस्ट ट्रेडिंग पार्टनर. बट चाइना हैपन टू बी द लार्जेस्ट इंडियाज लार्जेस्ट ट्रेडिंग पार्टनर इन द ईयर्स 2011-12, देन 2013-14 to 2017-18, and again in 2020 and 2021. So these were the years which China had upper edge over US, or you can say safely that China was the largest trading partner of India. Fine. So you can say consistently, I mean from $2 billion of trade in the years 2001, in 2021 we reached to somewhere around $116 billion was trade with China, and in that our exports are not even half, but you can say a stark reality that 73 somewhere more than 2/3 of whole of our transaction with China, or the trade transaction comprises of imports rather than exports. So a huge deficit we registered we see with respect to China. On the other side we have surplus with US, not much, but of course we have, you know, this somewhere, अगर इसका 73 है तो somewhere we have surplus in BOT with somewhere 33 you can say billion dollars with US, but still it's much, you know, better than as far as China is concerned. Fine. Alongside this, certain factual information for you. These are the two largest Indian you know, trading partners. That is, at number 1 is US. Number 1 is US. Then we have China at second. अगर top 5 की हम बात करें, then we have UAE at third. Then we have Saudi Arabia, Saudi, and then you can say we have this Iraq, जिसको अभी रशिया ने just few days back Russia took over as the single largest oil supplier, crude supplier nation with respect to India, taking over Iraq. Earlier Iraq used to be the, you know, major or the topmost crude supplier to India. Fine. So these are the top 5 nations with respect to our trade is concerned. I mean the largest trading partners of India, the top 5 largest trading partners of India. ठीक है. So the issues which has been raised by many people that we need to sever our ties with China, we can do, but it will take much time, because इसको करने के लिए हमें क्या करना होगा, जो हमारी import dependency है चाइना पे, that is worth of $73 billion import dependency, that is huge. We see कि हम क्या import करते हैं और क्या export करते हैं. You will be more you know, you will be having more clarity about the products, especially क्या वो possible है कि हम near terms में जल्दी से उसको diversify कर दें. तो of course the solution lies in diversifying our import basket, diversifying import basket, import basket. ठीक है, diversifying imports basket, कि हम जो चीज़ें यहाँ से कर रहे हैं, देयर 2-3 सॉल्यूशंस की वैसे बात हम लास्ट में भी करेंगे, बट अभी देख लो. तो इंपोर्ट बास्केट की अगर डाइवर्सिफाइंग की बात करें तो ऑफ कोर्स जैसे हम फर्टिलाइजर से इंपोर्ट करते हैं चाइना से, या इलेक्ट्रिकल अप्लायंसेस हैं, इवन न्यूक्लियर रिएक्टर्स भी हैं. सो इन चीज़ों को हम या तो किसी दूसरे नेशन से, वी ऑलवेज हैव 2 ऑप्शंस, यू नो. फर्स्ट इज to switch to some other nation, that is third country apart from China, India तो हैं ही 2. So third country, किसी तीसरे country से हम import करना start कर दें. And second and the best option always is self reliance, और खुद ही उसको make in India करना शुरू कर दें. आत्मनिर्भरता. So we always have, I mean the 2 options. Either switch to the third country, or this is how we can give certain setbacks to China with respect to its own, you know, you can say voluntary this, you know, incursions as far as our border areas are concerned. So first is this. Second, हम खुद की अपनी निर्भरता you know बढ़ाएं, उस चीज़ को खुद ही बनाना शुरू करें. 2 things, but this is not so easy considering the volume of trade we are having with China. ठीक है. Sure. So as far as I was talking about the products or the goods of, you know, imports and exports are concerned, so top commodities that we generally import from China, you all know ladiya and all. So electrical machinery as well as equipments, उसके बाद television, then we have sound recorders, then nuclear reactors, boilers, then of course organic chemicals, then plastics के आप toys and all खिलौने जो देखते हो तो plastic items you can say, or the articles. Then we have fertilizers, even we import urea from China, so fertilizers as well. Then of course one most major important things that we used to, now we have started our own production of course, and we have diversified to as well, to certain extent as well, that is the solar cells, solar PVs, that is photovoltaic cells. because our focus is on renewable energy. So of course PV solar photovoltaic cells become important for meeting our ambitious target or for our national solar missions. ठीक है. So far अगर हम वैल्यू वाइज वॉल्यूम वाइज तो दीज आर द प्रोडक्ट्स. अगर वैल्यू वाइज बात करें तो सबसे ज़्यादा जो हम चाइना से इंपोर्ट करते हैं दैट इज़ पीसीज, पर्सनल कंप्यूटर्स विच इंक्लूड्स लैपटॉप्स एंड ऑल. ठीक है. देन आफ्टर दैट वी हैव आफ्टर पीसीज इंक्लूडिंग लैपटॉप, देन वी हैव ICs दैट इज इंटीग्रेटेड सर्किट्स. देन यू कैन से फर्दर वी हैव लाइक लिथियम आयन batteries, then of course solar cells, and then we have urea. So this is, I mean, these are the way the orders of products that in terms of value, worth, we import from China. So far our exports are concerned, so our exports somewhere comprises of around 5% of India's total, you can say, merchandise exports, total shipment that we cumulatively, I mean, whatever worth of India's this ships or exports, out of the total exports 5% share is of China, and it includes majorly the ores, mineral ores basically. Then you have slags or ash, you can say ashes, ash. Then organic chemicals, again like fuel, oils, again we organic chemicals are both way, I mean we import as well as we export. इसमें mineral waxes, bituminous substances you can say. Then we have of course minerals, iron, steel, aluminum, alongside cotton as well. ठीक है. So these are the certain exports. ठीक है. एंड वन ऑफ द मेजर एस्पेक्ट, अगर हम कोविड की बात करें, पैंडेमिक का, तो उस टाइम पे हमने देखा कि इसी की वजह से सप्लाई चेन रेजिलियंस एक इनिशिएटिव जय ने शुरू किया, जिसकी हम बात कर चुके हैं ऑलरेडी इन आवर प्रीवियस डिस्कशंस, दैट इज SCRI, Supply Chain Resilience Initiative by JAI, that is Japan, Australia and India started, because supply chain dependency, I mean supplies जो है वो import dependency बहुत ज़्यादा हुई थी during corona pandemic. We have even suffered because of that dependency on China, because there is something called APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients, I mean the inputs which you need to make you can say vaccines and all, basically pharma products. For that you need inputs, we call them active pharmaceuticals ingredients. So China की पे डिपेंडेंसी बहुत ज़्यादा थी इसके लिए, API इसके लिए स्पेशली, and this is one of the examples that we can quote somewhere if we get certain questions related to this aspect, or wherever you want to use, I mean considering that is sync with the topic. So APIs पे dependency बहुत ज़्यादा थी. This could be the one of the examples that how we face the scenario and how we tackle that period. So उस टाइम पे since lockdowns were there, and even कि जो what to say, जो traveling थी उसमें भी restrictions लगा दी गई थी. So even because of that, and of course every country at that time needed to have the required resources for its own people. So of course at that time we faced a lot of these issues of APIs, and that time countries got to know that yes, now this dependency on China is not in our best of the interest, and that's why we need to diversify our this supply chain dependency or sources of supply. And that's in line of that lesson, you can say, that we derived from this pandemic. We came up with, that is Japan, Australia and India came up with an initiative that is called Supply Chain Resilience Initiative. So this could be one of the examples you can quote. Fine. I mean, these are the things which shows that yes, we are highly dependent on China's imports basically. Again, approximately somewhere 24 to 25% of जो coal generation है हमारी country में, 25% of coal generation जो plants हैं जहाँ से coal energy produce हो रही है, so those plants use critical equipments whatever critical equipments they use, that is I am talking about these coal based power plants, they use somewhere around this 25% of the equipments in those power plants are imported from China or sourced from China. So again, this is one of the critical, because this is, you know, energy is directly related to your security. So again, this is one of the critical aspects which you need to address. Okay? These are the, so far we have discussed the issues, I mean especially the economic angle of this whole issue related to China and India. Now what are the steps? I mean, after Galwan, what steps Indian government or India took in order to, you know, in order to give a befitting reply to the China on trade front is concerned, apart from having direct clashes or direct confrontation in the battlefield. So what we did, I mean, what were the steps taken after post this Galwan aspect or the post Galwan tragedy? So after that, firstly you can see उस टाइम पे headlines बहुत चलती होती थी, that is surgical strikes on the apps basically. So we banned Chinese apps including the famous ones TikTok, Share It, Like. उसके बाद हमने चाइनीज़ इन्वेस्टमेंट को जो है उसको स्क्रूटनाइज करना स्टार्ट किया. हमने अपनी FDI जो फॉरेन डायरेक्ट इन्वेस्टमेंट जो रूल्स हैं विद रिस्पेक्ट टू, यू नो, गिविंग ऑटोमेटिक दिस थ्रू ऑटोमेटिक रूट टू चाइना, सो उसको भी हमने स्क्रूटनाइज किया. उसको भी टू अ टफर स्टांस ऑन, यू नो, टफ स्टांस ओवर दैट investments from China as well. Then we kept, you know, Chinese company like Huawei out of you can say the 5G trials. ठीक है, even US and UK does this and did the same. Then further, you know, import dependency जो हमारी थी, as I mentioned, APIs, that is active pharmaceutical ingredients, उसको भी हमने cut किया है. Rather we tried to diversify. At the same time we have tried to, you know, become self-reliant in this aspect, and for that purpose we came up with initiatives like promotion of bulk drug parks. We came up with the initiative called bulk drug parks, and then further PLI scheme, that is PLI schemes, that is product incentives. ठीक है, जो भी इस पे होता है कि इंक्रीमेंटल आउटपुट जो है उस पे, हाँ, गवर्नमेंट इंसेंटिव्स प्रोवाइड करती है 2 to 4% अराउंड. ठीक है, प्रोडक्शन लिंक इंसेंटिव्स. So these were certain steps taken by the government in response to, I mean, that you can say one of the deadliest phase of India-China relations. Then after that, even we imposed anti-dumping duties. Now what is anti-dumping? This is concept of pure economics. So anti-dumping duties, anti-dumping duties. Anti-dumping duties को समझने से पहले let's talk about dumping. So dumping क्या होता है? Dumping in economics in simple terms is when a country, let's say China, selling some products in India at a cost or the price lesser than what it used to sell in its own domestic boundary or the domestic, yes, in its own nation. Fine. So when you are selling certain products at a cost or a price lesser than domestic price, I mean the foreign price जो है आपकी foreign price वो domestic price से कम है. ठीक है, you are selling certain products in a foreign nation at a price which are lesser than, you know, domestic price that you are selling in your own domestic nation, domestic boundary. We call it dumping. Means you are dumping your products in another nation at a cheaper price or the cheaper, you know, yes, cheaper price than your own domestic price. That's simple about dumping. ठीक है, you know कि चाइनीज़ के प्रोडक्ट्स काफ़ी सस्ते होते हैं कंपेरेटिव टू इंडियाज़, बिकॉज इंडियाज़ की वही अगर आप लड़ीज एंड लाइट्स देखोगे तो कंपेरेटिवली महंगे होंगे कंपेयर टू चाइना. सो पीपल प्रेफर टू, यू नो, परचेज और गो विद द चाइनीज लाइट्स एंड ऑल, स्पेशली ऑन दिवालीज. बट अब ट्रेंड धीरे धीरे चेंज हो रही है एंड वी आर गेटिंग मोर इंडियनाइज्ड नाउ, सो ऑफ कोर्स वी आर शिफ्टिंग टू द इंडियन प्रोडक्ट्स, मेक इन इंडिया एंड ऑल. ठीक है. So this is dumping, means a nation is, you know, dumping its products. Dumping, you can understand, dump करते हैं like waste को dump करना. So dumping, not waste here but the products here. So dumping its own products at a cheaper rates or prices in another country. ठीक, इससे डोमेस्टिक प्रोड्यूसर्स को नुकसान होगा, सिंपल सी बात है सबसे पहले. So of course, so as a protective measure, you know, against this particular dumping, any nations impose anti-dumping duties. इसमें क्या होता है कि सपोज अगर उस प्रोडक्ट आप if you are dumping product X which were let's say price ₹10, ठीक है, and earlier let's say कि इस पे कोई import duty नहीं थी, nil थी, but the same product in Indian or in the same Indian product, you know, in the market is getting sold at rupees somewhere around 15. ठीक है. So of course Chinese product has an edge over Indian because ये 10 रुपए की मिल रही है, 15 की मिल रही है. So people will prefer, you know, especially the rational consumers always wants to get the cheaper. So 10 रुपए लेके खरीदना चाहेंगे ना कि 15. So what would government do as a protective measure, you can say as a in the form of anti-dumping duties? Government will safely impose 5 rupees, I mean not rupees but in percentage terms, but let's say 50% of import duties in on this product X which has been dumped by China in Indian market. So 50% इस पे import duty लगाते हैं तो ये 5 हो जाएगा 50%. So of course then it became 15. Now both 15 and 15. So of course psychologically people will prefer to go for Indian product which is of ₹15, और even government चाहे तो इसको महंगी भी कर सकती है. I mean just I am taking a figure, यहाँ पे 100 कर लो तो इसका लगा लो कि कुछ यहाँ भी फिगर चेंज कर लो. I mean the difference should be more or equivalent. ठीक है, कम नहीं होना चाहिए. अगर फॉरेन प्रोडक्ट सस्ता है तो ऑफ कोर्स यू विल गो फॉर फॉरेन प्रोडक्ट, बट अगर सेम प्राइस हो, नॉट इवन सेम, बिकॉज उसमें भी नहीं होता कई बारी, आदत जो लगी होती है, यू नो, ओल्ड हैबिट डाई हार्ड, सो इट टेक्स टाइम. सो इसको और ज़्यादा कर दो. अगर ये 15 है तो इसको ड्यूटी लगा के सब कुछ करके उसको 20 कर दो. Yes, now the Indian people will rather prefer this ₹15 product, you know, the same product worth ₹15 in India compared to the same product costing ₹20, you know, from China. ठीक है. So this is basically anti-dumping duties or a protective measure, you can say. Clear? Clear है ये? ठीक है. सो दैट एंड्स आवर, आई मीन इवन दिस टॉपिक एज वेल. ठीक है, हम सॉल्यूशंस की भी बात कर चुके हैं. नाउ लेट अस बिगिन विद द थर्ड टॉपिक एंड दैट इज, सिंस वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट सोलर एंड ऑल, सो विल बी टेकिंग अप द थर्ड टॉपिक एट स्टेटस क्या है अभी सोलर पावर प्रोजेक्ट्स की, बिकॉज रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी, क्लाइमेट चेंज, ऑल. सो लेट्स चेक द स्टेटस चेक ऑफ सोलर पावर प्रोजेक्ट्स और सोलर एनर्जी की स्टेटस क्या है रिसेंटली. सो सोलर पावर प्लांट्स की अगर हम बात करें, सोलर power plants. So why I am taking up this topic, because I hope you all are aware that currently the session, you know, winter session of Parliament is going on, and in the Parliament, Minister of this new and renewable energy made a statement, and there he mentioned that that government ने जो है अभी तक जो sanctioned किए projects, fine, for solar projects, that is with the capacity of somewhere around 39,000 megawatts, but इसमें से सिर्फ 25% ही, 39,000 of 25% of this, ठीक है, इसमें से इसके 25% ही सिर्फ इंस्टॉल्ड हो पाए हैं अभी तक, एक्चुअली कमीशन किए हैं हमने अभी तक. ठीक है. सो 39,000 मेगावाट के प्रोजेक्ट्स जो हमारे टारगेट्स थे, बट नाउ वी हैव इंस्टॉल्ड ओनली 25% ऑफ 39,000. अगर 40 ले लो तो सेफली 25 हो जाए दिस, सो 10,000 ऑफ कोर्स. ठीक है. आउट ऑफ 40,000 अगर मानते हैं तो दिस वुड बी समवेयर अराउंड 9,000, 9 पॉइंट समथिंग. सो सिर्फ हम 9,000, 9.5 यू कैन से, 9,500 यू कैन से ऑफ मेगावाट ही हम अभी तक एक्चुअल में कमीशन कर पाए हैं. ठीक है. So there, not even 50%. So there is a huge shortfall in what we have, proposed and what we have commissioned. Fine. So now let us check what are the schemes and how the government is promoting, the renewable resource, one of the renewable resources, the sources of energy, and that is the solar energy. Okay. So in that direction, firstly, remember this whole of the projects which is going on with the target of producing 39,000 megawatt of energy only and only from solar, so in the form of solar energy, comes under a scheme which we call it development of one of the schemes, and the scheme is named as, remember schemes is one of the favorite areas of UPSC from where it does ask questions. Okay. So as far as solar parks is concerned, there is a scheme popularly known as development of solar parks, development of solar parks, you can write it down, जिसके अंडर ये सब चल रहा है, 39,000 का जो टारगेट हो इसी स्कीम के अंडर है. ठीक है. डेवलपमेंट ऑफ सोलर पार्क्स एंड अल्ट्रा मेगा सोलर पार्क्स एंड अल्ट्रा मेगा सोलर parks, ultra mega solar power, rather you can say power projects. So this is the scheme जिसके अंडर हमने ये प्रपोज किया था टारगेट 39,000 मेगावाट प्रोड्यूस करने की, बट सो फार वी हैव बीन एबल टू कमीशन ओनली 25% ऑफ दिस होल टारगेट. ठीक है. फाइन. ठीक है. सो अगर हम इसकी स्कीम की बात करें तो दिस हैज बीन रोल्ड आउट इन 2014 ओनली. ठीक है. कितने साल हो गए? 20, 22, 6 साल हो चुके हैं, 7, ऑलमोस्ट 7 years. ठीक है. इसका टारगेट ये था कि दिस इज वन ऑफ द, आई मीन इन फिगर्स यू कैन सेफली, इवन इफ यू कैन इग्नोर दिस, जस्ट सेफली राइट डाउन कि वी हैव बीन एबल टू कमीशन ओनली 25% ऑफ द टारगेट्स proposed or set in 2014 policy, this project. Simple. सारे स्टैट्स याद रखने की ज़रूरत नहीं होती, अदरवाइज यू गेट कन्फ्यूज्ड. ठीक है. सो इसके अंदर प्रपोजल क्या थी कि एटलीस्ट 25 सोलर पार्क्स हमें लगाने हैं, 25 सोलर पार्क्स एंड अल्ट्रा मेगा सोलर पावर प्रोजेक्ट्स. ठीक है. टारगेट जो था दैट इज वर्थ 20,000 मेगावाट ऑफ सोलर पावर, जो कि इंस्टॉल्ड कैपेसिटी दैट इज इन 20,000 मेगावाट के एटलीस्ट इंस्टॉल कैपेसिटी हमारे पास होनी चाहिए अंडर दिस प्रोजेक्ट. ठीक है. एंड दैट वाज टू बी मेट विद इन 5 years, दैट इज 2014-15 में अगर ये स्टार्ट हुआ तो ये 2019-20 तक हमें एटलीस्ट 20,000 मेगावाट ऑफ दिस अचीव कर लेना चाहिए था, बट वी आर नॉट एबल टू अचीव इवन 10,000 मेगावाट्स. ठीक है. इन 5 years. ठीक है. एंड रादर गवर्नमेंट ने क्या किया, बिकॉज यू माइट हैव सीन कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने जो COP21 हुआ, आई मीन COP26, 27 रिसेंटली. सो 26 में क्या हुआ कि जो कहाँ पे हुआ था, यस स्कॉटलैंड, नॉट दिस वन, रिसेंट वन इजिप्ट. सो स्कॉटलैंड वो, सो वहाँ पे क्या प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने कुछ और फर्दर जो टारगेट्स हैं उसको रिवाइज कर दिया था. सो दैट टारगेट रिवाइज टू अराउंड 40,000 मेगावाट फ्रॉम 20,000 मेगावाट. फाइन. एंड फॉर दैट प्रोजेक्ट्स वर मेंट टू बी एस्टैब्लिश और सेट अप इन द ईयर 2021-22. ठीक है. ज़्यादा डेटा याद रखने की जरूरत नहीं है, जस्ट फोकस ऑन द टारगेट्स, हाउ मच वी हैव अचीव्ड, how much we are left with, and on what line we are moving, and most important, what are the government schemes related to the solar power sectors, you can say, and how the government is promoting basically the solar power generation in India. ठीक है. So implementing agency जो सबके लिए है common है, that is SPPD. Remember this project or the this scheme is being implemented by एक implementing agency भी होनी चाहिए, because प्लानिंग हमारे यहाँ बहुत बढ़िया होती है. द होल इशू लाइज इन इम्प्लीमेंटिंग ओनली. सो इम्प्लीमेंटेशन स्टेज जो है उसको ठीक करने के लिए वी हैव अ सेपरेट एजेंसी, वी कॉल इज SPPD, दैट इज सोलर पावर प्रोजेक्ट, सोलर पावर पार्क डेवलपर, बेसिकली सोलर पावर पार्क डेवलपर, सोलर पावर पार्क डेवलपर, ठीक है। दिस इज द एजेंसी, यू कैन से। फीचर्स क्या हैं? सो फीचर्स बेसिकली इसमें यही है कि गवर्नमेंट जो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट है, इट विल under this it has been envisaged to support, basically central government will support states and UTs, even providing certain incentives, ठीक है, to create basically the required infrastructure for solar power plant. solar power लगाने के लिए बहुत कुछ infrastructure चाहिए, even we need heavy investments as well, because panels जो इतने सस्ते नहीं हैं, ठीक है, and plus we import most of the things, so of course वहाँ पे states को incentive, center needs to provide certain incentives to the states in order to promote the solar energy, ठीक है। So now the thing is to fact check that what is exactly the overall status of solar power generation or solar power in India, solar power energy in India, or solar energy, you can simply say solar energy current latest status क्या है। सो स्टेटस चेक की अगर हम बात करें तो लेटेस्ट स्टेटस क्या है सोलर एनर्जी की? सो नंबर वन इज दैट एज ऑफ डेटा जो हमारे पास है टिल नाउ, दैट इज ऑफ अक्टूबर 2022, ठीक है। सो अक्टूबर 2022 तक इंडिया ने कितनी इंस्टॉल्ड कैपेसिटी कितनी है? दैट इज समवेयर अराउंड 61 मेगावाट। नो, दिस इज नॉट मेगावाट, दिस इज रादर गीगावाट, ठीक है। ऑफ कोर्स 61 मेगावाट तो नहीं हो सकता, दिस वुड बी गीगावाट। 61 गीगावाट, ठीक है। तो इतनी हमारे पास इंस्टॉल्ड कैपेसिटी है ऑफ द सोलर एनर्जी सो फार, द इंस्टॉल्ड, ठीक है। बट हमने एक टारगेट रखा है, एम्बिशियस टारगेट, एंड दैट टारगेट इज ऑफ 175 गीगावाट बाय द एंड ऑफ दिस ईयर 2022। आई एम ओनली टॉकिंग अबाउट द सोलर, रिमेंबर सोलर एनर्जी, ठीक है। 175 गीगावाट जो है ये रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी की, टोटल रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी का टारगेट है। आउट ऑफ दिस आवर टारगेट टिल 2022 इज ऑफ कितना? 100 गीगावाट आउट ऑफ 175 जो है गीगावाट, ये सिर्फ सोलर एनर्जी से आना चाहिए, जिसमें से अभी हम 60 पे हैं। सो वी आर गोइंग गुड, बट बिकॉज ऑफ डिसरप्शंस टू दैट हैपन बिकॉज ऑफ पेंडेमिक, उस वजह से हमारी थोड़ी स्पीड स्लो होगी, अदरवाइज वी आर गोइंग वेरी गुड ऑन दिस पार्ट, ठीक है। 100 गीगावाट हमारी सोलर एनर्जी होनी चाहिए आउट ऑफ टोटल रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी ऑफ 175 गीगावाट, जो टारगेट हमारा टिल 2022 का था, विच आर अबाउट टू एंड दिस 2022 इज गोइंग टू एंड सून, ठीक है। सो आउट ऑफ 175 100 गीगावाट शुड बी कम एक्सक्लूसिवली फ्रॉम सोलर एनर्जी, बाकी सब विंड से, रिमेंबर but the source should be the renewable only, ठीक है, not coal or fossil here, fine. So this has been the target for the 2022 and which has been of course revised by our Prime Minister, ठीक है, and this has been revised to 500 this gigawatt of renewable energy. I am not talking about solar only, but renewable energy, remember 500 gigawatt of renewable energy, and we need to cover this target, achieve this target by the year 2030, ठीक है। 7-8 years to go, and the target has been revised, more than double, 175 5 this, ठीक है, fine, 350 500, more than 70%. So of course this is a good target, this is achievable one, but because of this disruption caused by pandemic, we are certain lagging somewhere. I think we will be able to finish somewhere around 75 gigawatt at the end of 2022. ठीक है, but there are certain achievements of course I said we are going good unless the pandemic ठीक है, until the pandemic started. So achievements हमारी कहाँ reflect होती है? We are the second largest market in Asia for new solar PV projects, or you can say the capacity, and third globally. Rather, we ranked fourth for total installed power capacity in the world. Remember, we ranked fourth for total installation or installed power capacity. I'm talking about solar power capacity. ठीक है, in the world. ठीक है, अभी हमने ओवरटेक किया जर्मनी को. फाइन, तो याद रखना. हाँ, जहाँ तक स्टेट वाइज बात है तो इंडिया में जो टॉप 2 स्टेट्स हैं, आई मीन 61 गीगावाट जो हमने इंस्टॉल कैपेसिटी जनरेट की है, उसमें से जो 2 मेजर स्टेट्स हैं जहाँ पे जिनका मोर शेयर है, दैट इज राजस्थान एंड गुजरात. ठीक है, सो राजस्थान एंड गुजरात की जो शेयर है बहुत ज़्यादा डिफरेंस है दोनों स्टेट्स में बहुत ज़्यादा डिफरेंस है. दैट इज समवेयर अराउंड 53%, दिस इज समवेयर अराउंड 14%. ठीक है, गुजरात इंस्टॉलेशन कैपेसिटी की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ. जैसे हमने देखा कि टोटल हमने अभी तक 61 गीगावाट क्या किया, इंस्टॉल किया है सोलर एनर्जी कैपेसिटी की जो हम बात कर रहे हैं. आउट ऑफ दिस 16 गीगावाट जो 53% शेयर है, यू कैन सी मोर देन हाफ मीन्स around 35 gigawatts of solar power installation, this energy capacity जो है हमारी, that comes exclusively from Rajasthan only. Of course that is a geographical reason as well because deserts and so of course वहाँ पे sunlight better रहती है. And then 14% from Gujarat. ठीक है, so cumulatively they make up around 67% and rest come around 9 to 10% comes from Maharashtra and ठीक है, so of course these make up फिर हमारे southern states आ जाते हैं like Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and all. So cumulatively they are contributing towards India's renewable energy generation, you can say, or shift to renewable energy. ठीक है, now the most important aspect of this whole discussion is what are the initiatives undertaken by the government for further or promoting this one of the important sources of energy, solar energy. So now the steps, or you can say the schemes or initiatives, you can say by schemes by GOI, Government of India, for promoting solar energy. So number 1 scheme is solar park scheme. Solar park scheme. Park scheme. The name suggests parks, of course इसमें parks लगाने हैं, हम ऑलरेडी बात कर चुके हैं. That is 25 parks. ठीक है, टारगेट जो था that under that scheme. ठीक है, ठीक. सो जो गवर्नमेंट के जो टारगेट था अंडर दिस, के एटलीस्ट 500 जो मेगावाट है, नॉट गीगावाट, मेगावाट, दैट शुड कम फ्रॉम नंबर्स ऑफ सोलर पार्क्स. ठीक है, उसके बाद रूफटॉप सोलर स्कीम. रूफटॉप आपने देखा होगा बहुत जगह लगाया जा रहा है, इवन इन चंडीगढ़ एज वेल. रूफटॉप छत के ऊपर रेजिडेंशियल, आई मीन कमर्शियल रेजिडेंशियल बिल्डिंग्स, ऑल इवन स्कूल्स के ऊपर भी रूफटॉप सोलर स्कीम और सोलर प्रोजेक्ट्स, यू कैन से. इसमें टू हार्नेस सोलर एनर्जी बाय installing the panels, you can say, on the roof of the houses, including both its commercial or residential, even की residential properties, residential जो हमारे I mean चंडीगढ़ में भी आप देखोगे और भी कहीं आप लोगों ने देखा होगा. सो वहाँ भी छतों पे आपको सोलर पैनल्स लगे मिल जाएंगे. एंड दैट्स द बेस्ट थिंग. इवन यू आर जनरेटिंग सरप्लस एनर्जी and you are sending those, supplying those surplus energy to the power grids, and instead of paying to the government, you are getting money from the government. What's the best thing? And that's the best, use of your roof. ठीक है, इससे अच्छा यूज़ क्या हो सकता है? you are self आत्मनिर्भर आप already हो, and after that even if you are getting instead this money from government by supplying whatever energy, surplus energy you generate after consuming for yourself. ठीक है, so this is a win-win proposition for both the sides, government as well as the citizens. After that I mean देखो गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स हैं, कॉलेजेस हैं, उनके छत खाली होते थे, उन पे अब पैनल्स लगा दिए. सो वी आर मेकिंग बेस्ट यूज ऑफ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, बिकॉज नीचे कहीं लगाओगे उसके लिए भी जगह चाहिए. यू आर ऑलरेडी जगह खाली पड़ी है वहाँ पे लगा रहे हो. सो ऑफ कोर्स दिस इज द बेस्ट थिंग, दिस इज द बेस्ट, वन ऑफ द बेस्ट पॉलिसी. देन वी हैव अटल ज्योति योजना, AAY, अटल अजय, वी कॉल इट अजय, दैट इज अटल ज्योति योजना. थर्ड इज अजय, दैट इज Atal Jyoti Yojana. This scheme was launched in the year 2016. Just write down the year 2016. और पर्पस क्या था? for installation of solar street lighting in states with less than, इसका टारगेट था कि जिस भी स्टेट्स में पावर ग्रिड के थ्रू 50% से कम पावर सप्लाई होती है, उन स्टेट्स में, उन पर्टिकुलर स्टेट्स में जो स्ट्रीट लाइट्स हैं उनको सोलार स्ट्रीट लाइट्स लगाई जाए वहाँ पे. ठीक है, सो सोलार स्ट्रीट लाइटिंग with less than 50% of household covered under grid system, you can say, or grid power. ठीक है, उसके बाद most ambitious one of the you can say mission, and that is NSM, that is National Solar Mission. NSM, National Solar Mission. इसके अंदर क्या था? Again one of the you can say the major initiatives which has been promoted with with a focus to have ecologically or you can say sustainable growth while addressing India's energy security challenge as well. ठीक है, so इसका फोकस दोनों पे है कि जो ग्रोथ है हमारी वो सस्टेनेबल हो, एंड दैट इज पॉसिबल ओनली विद रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सोर्सेज. एंड देन जो एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी है इंडिया की, जो चैलेंज है किसी भी कंट्री की, एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी इज ऑलवेज वन ऑफ द चैलेंजेस, सो उसको भी हम एड्रेस कर पाएँ. Then the next, I mean this scheme that we have, and that is Srishti. Srishniya is Srishti. Srishti. Yes, the full form is Sustainable Rooftop Implementation of solar transfiguration of India. Implementation of solar transfiguration, FIGURATION, figuration of India. ठीक है, स्कीम, ट्रांसफिगरेशन स्कीम. ठीक है, सो ठीक है, इसकी ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है? नेम में ही मेंशन है, रूफ टॉप. इन ऑर्डर, सो द ऑब्जेक्टिव इज और द पर्पस इज टू प्रमोट रूफ टॉप सोलर पावर प्रोजेक्ट्स. टू प्रमोट रूफ टॉप सोलर पावर प्रोजेक्ट्स. टू प्रमोट रूफ टॉप सोलर पावर प्रोजेक्ट्स इन इंडिया. ठीक है, उसके बाद द बेस्ट, आई मीन वन ऑफ द मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट स्टेप दैट वाज अंडरटेकन बाय द गवर्नमेंट, द इंडिया अलोंगसाइड दिस फ्रांस आफ्टर पेरिस क्लाइमेट एग्रीमेंट इन 2015 itself. COP21 उसको बोलते हैं, पेरिस वाले को, पेरिस क्लाइमेट एग्रीमेंट. रिसेंटली 27 COP27 concluded in Egypt. So IAS, that is International Solar Alliance, undertaken jointly by India and France post COP21 or post Paris Climate Agreement in 2015 itself. India and France. This is one of the major you can say a very good initiatives undertaken by इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस, इसमें 100+ कंट्रीज आई मीन पार्ट ऑलरेडी मेंबर्स इसकी बन चुकी हैं, ठीक है। एंड दिस इज़ अ वर्ल्ड वाइड एन अलायंस विच वाज इनिशिएटेड बाय इंडिया, ठीक है। इसकी जो इवेंट की सेक्रेटरीट है दैट इज़ इन गुरुग्राम, ठीक है। सो अगेन इसका फोकस पर्पस क्या है? टू मोबिलाइज एफर्ट्स अगेंस्ट climate change through deployment of solar energy solutions, ठीक है। So that's it about this topic. Now we'll take another just a small topic. ठीक है, and that is you might have been aware of this fact that currently the collegium system of Supreme Court that appoints judges, the higher judiciary including High Court and Supreme Court, is under question. That is, again, even Vice President of India raised objections or made a statement against this collegium system of appointing judges of what? Higher judiciary, that is High Court and Supreme Court. So isko we'll see, this is small topic, so we'll take up this. So collegium system है क्या? Firstly, collegium system, what exactly the collegium system? This is would be fourth topic. Collegium system. ठीक है। So this collegium system is basically a system meant for appointment and transfer of judges of higher judiciary. First thing, remember, this is meant for appointment plus transfer of judges of higher judiciary, that includes High Court and Supreme Court. High Courts and Supreme Court, transfer of judges, safely write down High Courts plus Supreme Court, ठीक है। Now why this collegium system is in news time and again, and why the government is against this collegium system? This is most important question so far this collegium system current context of the system is concerned. So remember, one of the biggest issues revolving this collegium system is that here judges appoint judges. So there is no involvement of, you can say, executive here, or even because this system itself had evolved over the time through judgments of the Supreme Court and not made by Parliament. I mean, this is not a statutory system or statutory body which appoint judges. Fine. Rather, this has evolved. This is a evolved system by the Honorable Supreme Court itself. Okay? So this is not an act which has been passed by Parliament, and that's why this is not an statutory body. First information. Secondly, now if you are saying this all, then what exactly is the process of appointment of judges, or do we have certain constitutional procedures or the process? Of course, indeed we have certain constitutional provisions related to the appointment and transfer of judges. So what are those? So articles, two articles are important, that is article 124 clause 4, articles 124 clause 2, not 4, sorry, article 124 clause 2 and article 217, because one deals with the Supreme Court, this and this with High Courts. So articles 124 clause 2 and articles this 217, it relates to the appointment of judges of both the Supreme Court and the High Court. And what it says, it clearly says that President appoints judges of the higher judiciary after consulting such judges of the Supreme Court and of the High Court as she may deem as he or she may deem necessary, ठीक है। सो सिंपली मतलब ये है कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जो जजेस हैं और हाई कोर्ट के, उसको अपॉइंट कौन करता है? दे आर अपॉइंटेड बाय द प्रेसिडेंट, बट प्रेसिडेंट हैज टू कंसल्ट फॉर दैट मैटर टू द जजेस ऑफ द सुप्रीम कोर्ट एंड द हाई कोर्ट्स, ठीक है। बट द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन जो है, एज आई सेड, कि नो वेयर लेज डाउन एनी कंडीशंस और एनी क्राइटेरिया फॉर और एनी टाइप ऑफ सच प्रोसेस फॉर मेकिंग दिस अपॉइंटमेंट्स। सो एवोल्यूशन कैसे हुई है इनकी? एवोल्यूशन इवॉल्व थ्रू टू थ्री cases rather. There are three important cases which resulted in the evolution of this collegium system. Their first judge case, ठीक है। इसमें जो प्राइमेसी दी गई that was to executive, I mean एक अपर हैंड जो है अपॉइंटमेंट में, that would remain with the executive and that is said by the Honorable Supreme Court itself. Because under this जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट है उसने इस चीज़ को हेल्ड किया कि जो अपॉइंटमेंट है जजेस की हाई कोर्ट ने सुप्रीम कोर्ट की, जो उसमें जो अंडर आर्टिकल 1 to 4 क्लॉज 2 की बात करी, जहाँ पे हमने कंसल्टेशन की बात की, द प्रेसिडेंट हैज टू कंसल्ट टू द सीनियर जजेस ऑफ द सुप्रीम कोर्ट. सो अंडर दैट सुप्रीम कोर्ट हेल्ड दैट दिस कंसल्टेशन डजंट मीन कंकरेंस. फाइन, मैंडेटरीली कंकरेंस नहीं जरूरत है प्रेसिडेंट की, बट जस्ट कंसल्टेशन मीन्स कंसल्टेशन एंड नॉट कंकरेंस, कि प्रेसिडेंट सहमत होंगे ही होंगे ये जरूरी नहीं है, बट दिस इज जस्ट अ कंसल्टेटिव प्रोसेस. ठीक है, जो अगर जजेस सहमत नहीं है तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि वो डिनाई कर देंगे इस अपॉइंटमेंट को, फिर है दे कैन नॉट रिजेक्ट, बट दिस ओनली मीन्स कंसल्टेशन एंड इट्स नॉट बाइंडिंग ऑन, यू कैन से, द प्रेसिडेंट टू ऑनर देयर व्यूज और whatever reservation they have. ठीक है, so of course this reflects that executive got the upper hand under first judge case, but in second judge case the year is first judge case की 1981. जो second judge case आया that was in the year, I mean as I said कि this evolved through AC judgment. So AC judgment इस तरह से आई, first judge case, second judge case. So second judge case was of the year 1993. Now under this very case we see that the birth of collegium system. So collegium system की birth यहाँ पे होती है, and under this collegium system came into being in the year 1993 under second judge case. Under this AC overruled its first judge case judgment, overruled its own judgment and gave birth to the collegium system. तो collegium system के birth होते ही प्रेमिसी कहाँ चली गई? From executive to judiciary. That now judiciary will have the upper hand in appointment of judges. ठीक है, so इस सिस्टम में फिर होगा क्या? सो कॉलेजियम सिस्टम एक बनाई गई एंड उसमें 3 लोग होंगे, दैट इज फर्स्ट वुड बी योर CJI, द चीफ ऑफ द पैनल, प्लस 2 सीनियर मोस्ट जजेस ऑफ सुप्रीम कोर्ट ओनली, रिमेंबर. ठीक है, बट थर्ड जज केस 1998 में आता है, बिकॉज प्रेसिडेंट ने कुछ अपने सजेशंस दिए हैं, प्रेसिडेंट ने इसको एक्सपैंड करने के लिए बोला थर्ड जज केस में. सो थर्ड जज केस में क्या हुआ कि प्रेसिडेंट की उसका जो सजेशन थी, जो भी एडवाइस, उसको मानते हुए सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इसको एक्सपैंड कर दिया. किसको? कॉलेजियम को. एंड नाउ द कॉलेजियम इंक्लूड्स CJI प्लस 4 सीनियर मोस्ट जजेस. सो नाउ इट इज अ 5-member बॉडी, रिमेंबर, एट प्रेजेंट. ठीक है, बट नो वेयर यू सी दैट देयर इज even a single person from executive side, be it law minister or be it certain secretaries or whatever eminent judicial persons. No, eminent jurist bhi nahi hai. All 5 are the judges. So of course this has crude, you can say, upper hand over the appointment of judges, the collegium system. One of the important, the most important criticism of this is that the judges appoint judges and nowhere the government has any say in this whole. But yes, this government has veto, that is called pocket veto, you can say. वहाँ पे जो गवर्नमेंट है वो क्या करती है, उस पूरी प्रोसेस को, जो अपॉइंटमेंट है, you might have seen कि फाइल आगे बढ़ती है नहीं, so it takes time, or even the government can send back to the collegium to reconsider the names of those judges upon which the government has certain reservations. ठीक है, सो करंट स्ट्रक्चर क्या है? CJI प्लस 4 जजेस, रिमेंबर, एंड हाई कोर्ट कॉलेजियम में बट डिफरेंट है, दिस इज फॉर सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजेस अपॉइंटमेंट एंड ट्रांसफर. बट सेकेंड जो केस है फॉर हाई कोर्ट्स वी हैव CJI प्लस 2 सीनियर मोस्ट जजेस, नॉट 4 फॉर हाई कोर्ट्स, हाई कोर्ट जजेस के अपॉइंटमेंट एंड ट्रांसफर रिलेटेड. ठीक है, बेसिकली होता क्या प्रोसेस, पहले कॉलेजियम नेम डिसाइड करती है, टेक्स्ट डिसीजन जो भी फाइनल नेम्स होते हैं अग्री करते हैं, आई मीन मेजोरिटी डिसीजन ली जाती है, 5 में से 3 जजेस ने अगर फेवर में कहा तो येस, एंड देन इट गोज टू द प्रेसिडेंट फॉर फर्दर अपॉइंटमेंट. प्रेसिडेंट मीन्स इनडायरेक्टली तो गवर्नमेंट. देन उसमें IB की क्लियरेंस एंड ऑल दैट देखा जाता है कि कोई आई मीन पुराना रिकॉर्ड तो नहीं है, समथिंग सॉरी कोई आई मीन एनी सिक्योरिटी इश्यूज एंड एवरीथिंग. ठीक है, उसके बाद फाइनल फाइल क्लियर होती है, दोबारा फाइनल गवर्नमेंट इसको अप्रूव करके कॉलेजियम को भेजती है, एंड देन with due approval of president the person gets appointed to or elevated to the respective courts. ठीक है, क्रिटिसिज्म यही है कि ओपेक है, स्कोप ऑफ यू कैन से नेपोटिज्म है, ऑफ कोर्स भाई भतीजावाद चलता है इसमें काफ़ी. उसके बाद एक्सक्लूजन, कंप्लीटली एक्सक्लूड करता है जुडिशियल इस एग्जेक्टिव को, एग्जेक्टिव का कोई से नहीं है इसमें. यू हैव सीन कि हाँ इसमें जजेस ही सिर्फ इन्वॉल्व हैं, एंड देन कोई प्री डिटर्मिन्ड प्रोसेस नहीं है. आई मीन नो बडी नोज, आई मीन द थिंग्स आर नॉट इन पब्लिक डोमेन दैट आई मीन हाउ थिंग्स आर गोइंग ऑन. ठीक है, इसके रिप्लाई में एक गवर्नमेंट बिल लेके आती है, NJAC दैट इज नेशनल जुडिशियल अपॉइंटमेंट कमीशन एक्ट. बेसिकली दिस वाज 99th कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अमेंडमेंट एक्ट ब्रॉट इन द ईयर 2014. अगेन ये भी अभी न्यूज़ में है, बिकॉज जब भी कॉलेजियम सिस्टम की बात आएगी तो इस एक्ट के बारे में भी बात किया जाता है, विच were basically rejected or declared null and void by the Supreme Court under reservation that this violates or this hampers the independence of judiciary. ठीक है, इसमें था क्या, so it basically attempted to replace the collegium system and prescribe the procedure to be followed by this NJAC commission for appointment of judges of the High Court and Supreme Court, and then further इट वॉज टर्म्ड अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बिकॉज इसके कुछ थे, जैसे 6 मेंबर्स बॉडी होगी इसमें, जिसमें 3 जुडिशरी से आएंगे प्लस 3 आई मीन जजेस होंगे, एंड 3 यू कैन से गवर्नमेंट अपॉइंटेड मेंबर्स होंगे. इन 3 में से एक लॉ मिनिस्टर होंगे एंड 2 एमिनेंट ज्यूरिस्ट होंगे. ठीक है, दोज विल बी ऑल्सो नॉमिनेटेड बाय द गवर्नमेंट. द फर्स्ट लैकुना ऑफ दिस इज दैट 3 + 3 6, सो दिस इज अ इवन नंबर. एंड इसमें सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज ये था कि अगर इवन इफ 2 persons says no to any person's appointment, then that would be no for the entire panel. ठीक है, सो देयर वाज नो मेजॉरिटी रूल पर से. अगर 3 गवर्नमेंट के लोग हैं, अगर इसमें से 2 ने भी ना कह दिया तो दिस प्रोसेस कैन नॉट मूव फॉरवर्ड. ठीक है, सो इस तरह के इश्यूज थे इसमें. फाइन, सो दैट्स इट फॉर द डे. थैंक यू.